I'm Justin Davis, and this is Joe Camp's RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis, and yes, it's almost December. It is definitely full bore into whoop season now, and we're talking about the Mobula7 today. You finally get to see an honest review of the Mobula7. I'm gonna tell you the real deal. Every other reviewer on the planet right now seems to have said the Mobula7 is like the next coming of Christ. This thing is more popular than possibly Jesus. So we're gonna take a real honest to goodness look at it right now, and I'm gonna tell you what's going on with it. I'm also gonna give you a real durability test with this little guy. Check this out. This is what can happen to yours after the first day of flying if you're really hard on it like I am. I have a backup one here, and you can also get this one in two different versions. You can get the standard and the basic. The basic only comes with the quad, the built-in receiver, a couple batteries, but no chargers. The standard version comes with everything in the box except for a radio. You do get a charger in it as well. This little charger that comes along with some of the other little tiny bind and fly whoops that I've shown on the channel previously. It does do HV batteries and regular LiPos. But also, if you'd like to win a Tiny Hawk, please do comment down below on this video, because this video also counts for that December 2nd drawing. We're giving away that Emax Tiny Hawk right here on the channel to one of my subscribers. So click subscribe, and then after that, make a comment, let me know where you're from, and you'll get entered to win the Tiny Hawk at the end of the month. So good luck everybody about that. And if you'd like to see more honest reviews, please do click my Patreon link down below. Become a patron for $1 or more a month. I have several different tiers available. But let's go ahead and jump into some flying now. Let me give you an honest to goodness review of the Mobula7 outside all the hype that's surrounding it on YouTube right now. So let's do some flying, some line of sight, some FPV, and after that, we'll come back in the studio. We'll take a little closer look what's under the hood on this Mobula7 and what didn't hold up so well. Here we go. All right guys, welcome back from the flight test. Thank God I have another one here to fly later, and while I'm waiting for another frame for this one. This one's definitely gonna need a new frame. It did not fare well during the flight test. I was super happy for a whole bunch of different reasons about this quad. Why I was happy about it? Well, it has smart audio. It had that super kind of durable looking frame that I was looking for versus some of the other whoops out there. It had nice props on it, great motors, F3 Crazy Bee flight controller, built-in real large size buzzer on here, which is great because you can hear it out in the weeds, and it's much better than the little D-shot buzzers that some of the other whoops have. They're really hard to hear. And it was ready to accept the other batteries that I already had from my previous whoops. From my most recent reviews, it takes little 1S 250 milliamp batteries. Happymodel includes 2 in this kit, which is really, really nice. And all the motors, again, are plug and play. It has Betaflight 4.0 on here. It has little grommets for kind of dampening the F3 flight controller. And probably the biggest thing about this is the fact that it flew better outdoors than just about any other little 2S brushless whoop that I've had my hands on this fall. So I would say 5 stars for the flying capability of the Mobula7. Probably one of the best and funnest to fly quads that I've had my hands on this year as far as little 2S quads are concerned, and whoop style quads in that category. And we can't be jumping categories like some of you guys want to do. You want to ask about the Tiny Hawk versus the Mobula7. We can't do that because there are 2 different class racers. The Tiny 7 might actually be a little bit better indoors. If you want to fly this one indoors, you can do that in stability mode. If you're going to fly acro indoors, you better have a big house or a gymnasium. The camera is adjustable on the side, which I really like a lot, and it does go up and down. There's a little tiny screw right here on this side and on this side. Now this camera came pre-set up to a minimal amount of tilt. This one, on the other hand, when I took it outside to fly it, it was set up close to 30 degrees worth of tilt right out of the box. So with these little tiny AIO cameras, I was telling someone yesterday that this is a different style camera than something like your little run cam camera. This is actually an all-in-one 600 TVL camera that has a super wide field of view. So you really don't need 30 degrees worth of tilt on this. You can do that if you want to fly extremely fast, and people that I was talking to out in the park when I was flying today, they were pretty impressed with how fast this little guy was. And that's probably the funnest thing about this, is that it is super fast. If you do make a mistake with it, this frame is going to pay for it though. As you can see, I broke every single prop guard all the way around. I broke a few of the struts right here. That's one strut. I broke this front end piece, and the first thing to go was this front part right here, which I came back and landed, and it was completely gone. So this frame really didn't hold up all that well on the first flight test. And the cool thing about it was that I was able to still fly after even breaking a few of these internal struts. This thing was still going with a little bit of lumber here and there, but for the most part, I was able to finish the review with this half broken frame. Now, the very last flight that I got in, I ended up kind of I was playing around a fence, and I ended up hitting the top, and it just broke the top clean off when I hit the fence. All 3 of those posts right there broke. So the frame is pretty brittle. So it just doesn't seem to take a hit very well. And yeah, this is kind of the result of that. So I don't know if anyone else, I didn't watch all the reviews, but I'm kind of wondering if anyone else's frame came back looking like this. It's completely trashed. So yeah, I'm gonna need to replace all those components. But overall, this quad aesthetically is really pleasing. I love the top of the canopy. It kind of has this like Batman look to it, the swept forward thing. It almost looks like a Sea Ray or a Manta or something like that. It's really neat, and I love the fact that it is camera tiltable up here if you want. It has 3 screws to remove the top plate right here. It also has smart audio on board, which I love. You can go in there and even change PID profiles, do a little PID tuning on the fly if you want to, without having to have Betaflight. And it also flies extremely well in acro, whereas some of the other whoops I've had recently, they don't fly very well in acro. Most people do race them indoors in stability mode. So if you're brand new to FPV, or you're just thinking about getting one of these quads for your first one, this one is okay. if you want to fly it in stability to start out with, and just move up to acro outdoors later. But this will be almost impossible indoors in acro mode unless you really have a good open floor plan and you're not trying to fly too small of a course. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to bind it up. I don't know yet whether it's D8 or D16, but I'm going to find out. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into my menus here. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom, and if you have any type of Taranis Frsky radio, it's going to be virtually the same. So go ahead and press your bind process, get that going. You're going to plug one side of the battery in right here on this side, and then we're going to plug in the next side right here. And this one should work the same way as the other Happymodel versions that came out. See how that's blinking white right there? All I have to do now is go ahead and press the bind button, and it's really super tiny on this one. It's silver, so I'm just going to bring it a little bit closer, and you might not even be able to see it, but here it is right here. I have to kind of hold it to the side of the light so I can see it there, right there next to that chip. Now it should go solid. Okay, and now I'm going to stop the bind process. It's still flashing, but we should be bound up now. See how it stopped? Now I can go ahead inside Betaflight and I can set up my modes and switches. Should be good to go. And that's how you bind up the Mobula7. Now the Mobula seems to come with 4 batteries for each box. Each box had 4 of these Happymodel batteries, and they are 30C to 60C, and they are 250 milliamp. When you pair up 2 of these together, it's really impressive because you have 500 milliamp altogether for your 2S setup, which is super nice. And the way they have it wired in the back, you can't fly this on 1S. You have to fly this with this harness configuration in the 2S configuration. Someone asked me before if you could fly it on 1S, and it's just not set up that way. So the quad won't even turn on unless you have both of these plugged in. So something to consider. But on the charger that comes along with it, it charges up in about, I would say 15 minutes time from a dead charge to a full charge. You can put a 4S 1300 right here as your input, and it does have a voltage range up to 25 volts. So you could maybe even run something a little bit bigger than a 4S battery, but I would probably stick to like something like a 4S 1300 or 1500 for field charging. You can get a lot of charges out of those little 1300s, but you have 6 ports on here for charging. This charger is exactly like the other ones that I showed you, like the UK65 comes with the same one, and the QX65 also. It does have 2 different options for charging. You can charge them as HV, which is going to charge it up to 4.35 volts, or you can charge it as standard LiPo per cell, which will be 4.20 volts. You can also change the charging rate from 2.2 amp all the way up to 6 amp, 0.6 amp. So pretty quick charge. I usually keep it all the way over on 0.6, and it charges it a lot quicker. So it's going to bring you up to about a little under 15 minutes per battery. But as you're flying, you can just keep cycling all your batteries through, which is really nice. Now what's also really cool about this charger is it does have USB port for charging up to 5 volts out on any USB device, which is nice for your phone or any of your other devices you have. You also have a spot for a barrel connector, and you can plug this into the wall if you have a little 12 volt barrel connector there, which is also a really nice option. Now the batteries that I'm going to recommend for this particular Mobula 7 is going to be the 1S 260 milliamp batteries by GNB. These batteries right here probably have the best performance out of any of the batteries that I tried. I also tried the Beta FPV batteries. Those are pretty good. They are up to 300 milliamp, but I find that this has a much better performance than just about any other battery, especially the Happymodel batteries that come along with it. They are a little bit bigger, but you really won't notice the size. You'll get just a little bit longer flight time out of these as well. And I'll try to put some links down below for these GNBs. And this frame is a 75 millimeter by 75 millimeter frame, if you're wondering what the size is. It is under 100 millimeters. It's super lightweight. We're going to do some weigh-ins versus some of the other whoops out there right now. But also the Crazy Bee flight controller, the F3 that's on here, it's tuned really well. I didn't see a lot of vibrations when I first took off. There was a little bit of jello, but after I maintained like a little bit about past half throttle, it smoothed out really nice. And the biggest thing about this is it has so much control with these props and this power setup that I'm able to do crazy things with this Whoop, like a Matty flip. This is something that I've never done with a Whoop before, so that was a lot of fun, feeling that much freedom to be able to try a move like that without really huge consequences versus something like a 5-inch. If you try to Matty loop a 5-inch and you go straight into the ground, you're pretty much likely going to break something. But as you can see here, this one's not totally super durable. You're going to break stuff on this one too, but really easy just to pull these motors off, take this off here, and swap this out for another frame. Now, the prices on these frames, I believe it's around $5 for a new frame, so it's not the end of the world if you break your frame. What I'm going to suggest also for you guys, if you buy one of these, go ahead and buy an extra frame with it, because chances are you're going to break your first prop guard, and once you do that, eventually you're just going to break these other ones all the way around. Now, the ESCs on board, those are 5-amp BL Heli ESCs, and they do carry D-Shot, which is really nice. You don't have to set up the D-Shot beeper, which is great that it does have this little full-size beeper on the top of this. I really like that a lot. It's a lot louder than the little tiny D-Shot beeper, but you do have pretty awesome motors on here. We've got 0802 16,000 kVs, and the great thing about it is the magnets actually feel really, really good. You can tell that a motor is going to have a decent performance when they put really high quality magnets inside the stator. So a really nice motor on here for sure. We also have the dipole on the top for your 5.8 coming out. If you need to change channels manually, this one's a lot easier to get to than some of the other frames. I really like how accessible the top of the canopy is, and it has tons of holes in the very top for a lot of ventilation, and on below it's pretty much open on the bottom. Now, if you're looking for the bind button, it is extremely small, and I already showed you how to bind it up. It's going to bind up just like the other Whoops that I've had on the channel recently. It's going to start blinking white when you plug everything in, and then you're just going to press that little button, hold it down, and it'll go solid when you let go of it, and it'll be all bound up. And it is bindable in D16 mode, which is super great because we should have a little better distance. Now, as far as my report on the receiver, the built-in receiver works extremely well. At least the Frsky version got me way across the park, almost so far that I was afraid to go further because I thought I was going to fail safe. My RSSI did drop, but I never lost signal, and I never fail safe this for my entire flight test, which is actually really impressive for something this small. So let's go ahead and summarize this review for you. Is this a 5-star quad? I would say not quite. I'm going to say like 4.5 stars for this quad. I think it's a great quad, maybe even 4 stars. I love the way it flies. I think they pretty much nailed everything on here as far as what we want. The only thing this thing is really missing is like something like a Runcam Split Mini. When they start recording 1080p on these, that will be a really, really awesome day when you can do that. Little micro SD card support would be super awesome. That might be something coming up in the future for China to try to evolve to for us, which would be really cool for these types of Whoops. We've been dreaming about that for a long time, but for now we'll have to settle on our DVR. And the power system on this is 5 out of 5. So 5 stars for the power system and the setup on here. The F3 is perfect on here. It flies great without a lot of that wobble in a lot of my maneuvers. I didn't have it. As long as my frame was intact, I didn't have a lot of that extra wobble coming out of maneuvers, which was really awesome. Fun factor is also 5 out of 5 for this one. I love it. I don't want to get rid of this one. I really want to keep this one to fly because I'm going to be a little nicer on this frame than I was the other one. But I'm also going to end up buying a couple more frames. They are fairly cheap. They're $5 a piece, so don't sweat it if you have to buy a new frame. But my overall rating is definitely going to be 4.0 to maybe 4.5, 4.5 stars out of 5. So I appreciate you guys watching my reviews. Please do comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Mobula7. If you have one, let me know how yours is holding up because I would love to know. I think this is a really great quad. Last and but not least, my durability rating is probably going to be about a 2.0 out of 5. So not the most durable frame in the world, like a lot of them seem to be lately. So yeah, that's why my overall rating might be around a 4.0 for the Mobula7. But thanks again for watching, you guys. I'm Justin Davis, keeping it honest for you guys, coming out of China, the newest, hottest one, the Mobula7. Take care, guys. I'll see you on the next one.